I hate this scrolling part. Y'all know I'm not real good at this yet. Good morning. Um, I'm working on a way to get this thing straight, so y'all bear with me. I should be able to add Michelle to this. We're hoping technology is not my strongest suit here. I'm Stacy. We're Loving My Veteran. We have come together just to have a place for people to be together and kind of share our experiences and to come up with a way that we can evolve together as we go through this. Um, Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to see how I can add Michelle. She joins us. My little thing is off. All right, let me see if Michelle's here. So I can add her. All right, let me see if I can do this. I'm working. I'm sorry, y'all. This isn't a new thing for me. Um, just kind of got to bear with me as I go through this. Sorry. And what showed me how to do it, Michelle, when I did the other. So hang on, let me get us there. Start screen. I can do this. It was simple when I looked at it online. So hang on, bear with me. I can get us on here together. All right. Sorry, y'all. I'm a little challenged this one. Takes me a minute. It says it should be simple. Co-broadcasting. Here we go. Co-broadcast feature. Tap the live icon. Oh, see, it says simple right here. If I would just want to do this. Tap the live with bottom of the screen. It doesn't tell me how to do that. You know, little things. Wait. Sorry, y'all. This is like a disaster. We're waiting to happen. All right. It says that I can go to live. I'm working on this. Um, it didn't make any sense to me. Oh. So I don't know how to do this. Killing me here. So tap the icon on the news feed of your profile page. Tap the icon at the bottom. Select the person you want to invite from a list of viewers and tap add. It isn't giving me the list of viewers. I can't see the list of viewers here. This thing is not smart. I'm not technologically smart. Going on Facebook. It tells me how to do it, but I can't figure it out. I'm not technologically challenged here. Enter an event. Sorry, y'all. I know this is like a pain, and I don't mean to be inconsiderate to y'all, but this is technology, and so we're not real smart. All right, I don't know how to do this. It would look really simple on the thing, and so Michelle's looking too. So if you figure it out, just kind of holler at me and tell me how to do this because it's not letting me do what I want to do. Turn on allow viewers to rewind. No, turn on generate captions. All right, we're going to start. Michelle's going to make a lot of comments over here because we should be doing this together and we're not. And I feel really bad, but we have to move forward here. Today, we're going to talk about triggers and how to deal with them. That it's kind of a really rough thing when we do this. Um, with PTSD, there are definite triggers. So if you got to figure out how to do this yet, so I'm really trying. Let me do it quickly. The little dots. So we're talking about triggers, and all veterans have them. In fact, we all, with or without PTSD, have some form of a trigger that sets us off or puts us into a place. Um, and those triggers are tough and they're hard to deal with at times. And some triggers are easy to find. Um, like we know that there's an event or there's a date that kind of we know it's going to happen. So we know those things kind of happen as we go. And when we have these triggers and we know they're coming, they're much easier to deal with. So if, like for example, when Carl and I have conversations, he'll tell me I have a date, and that date's kind of easy to figure out when we have that date coming up. So I kind of know he'll be in a place. But then there are things that just go on throughout the day that can trigger him, just kind of set him off or set me off. The things that kind of happen. And I'm not real good at the whole practice what I preach thing. Okay, so I will tell you that going into this, that when we have a trigger that comes up in our life, a lot of times I can work myself through that with him and we do fine. And then there are times that unfortunately that trigger sets both of us off. I've learned that through communicating, and I think Michelle and I were talking about this morning, that through communicating, there are certain times you can communicate with them. But there are certain times you can communicate with everybody. When we are at it and in a disagreement that has become a little more heated, or there's no rational, neither one of us are ever going to be rational when it comes to that. Because he's mad and I'm defending, or I'm mad and he's defending, and we're kind of going through this thing. And nothing he says at this point is going to become rational to me. And I'll use an example that happened yesterday. Um, I said something about wanting a McDonald's cheeseburger. Well, we don't typically eat McDonald's. And he looks at me and says, well, that's a frivolous waste of money, but if it makes you happy, go get one. All I heard was, that's a frivolous waste of money. So by this point, I'm like livid. I'm thinking, it is 49-cent hamburger day at the McDonald's. What the heck is 49 cents? I didn't hear the rest of what he said to me because I was so mad by that point. I was like, ah. So it just set off a chain of events that didn't work for me or him. And it became much more clash of stuff because I simply did not listen to the whole thing. Well, at that point, when we're going back and forth and we're having an argument like every other couple has, so please do not say this is a PTSD thing. When we're having this conversation, neither one of us are going to bend. He's right in what he thinks because it's his perception. I'm right in what I think because it's my perception. And at the end of the day, he was the one who was right, but he doesn't like when I say that. Well, what also happened in that day is there was a car that had driven back and forth when I was coming back from running up to the store. There was a car that rode back and forth by the yard, and it pulled into the driveway to our field and backed out, and then it kind of stopped in front of the house. Well, I was on the phone with Michelle, who is my partner in crime here. I was on the phone with Michelle, and I was talking to her about this car and being weird and whatever. And so when I came in the house after I was already mad about the 49-cent cheeseburger, and I told Carl that there was a car there, and I was talking to Michelle when I walked in, and he was like, "You didn't, you couldn't hung up the phone and call me." And I'm thinking, I'm on the phone with Michelle. What the heck? Like the guy got out and paraded around. But his trigger is protecting us, protecting our home. And I hear this all the time. Home, it is about home. It is about protecting home. So home is a trigger for him, anything that jeopardizes home, whether that's me and him home, me and him and the our fur children together home, whether that is our physical house, or whether that is all this garbolage that's going on in the country, that this is the country that he fought for, so this is home. Well, by that point, we were no good to each other. So you cannot talk when you're both in that point. When you're both there, you can't talk about it. And that's not a trigger like a date. That was the fact that his trigger at that point became home. It wasn't safe. His job is to protect me, our home, and our fur children that we have together, and our physical children that don't live with us. I mean, they're grown. So, but that's his priority. And then, of course, country and friends and country as it goes on down the list. But I miss that. And I'm really not good at practicing what I preach because um, I don't always think about that. Oh, I wired so differently. As a paramedic, I just think and I do, and I just go and go and go, and I never analyze all the situations. And what he did, he had to think about every possible outcome. And I used this when I was talking to Michelle this morning. I can remember getting a call as a paramedic that was, "Oh, we need to go help this lady, this family get this lady from her bed to a chair in the house." Well, we do that all the time. People call 911 for like, "Can you take my trash out?" But so they called 911 for that. And so we're riding and we're not thinking much of it. And we get to this house. Well, there happened to be three of us on that ambulance this day because we had a guy who was doing his orientation with us. And when we did it, we walked in and we could hear the lady in the bedroom breathing heavy, like, which is never a good sign. Okay. It's never a good sign in EMS. So my regular partner was outside and she lowered the stretcher because we couldn't get the stretcher in the house. And we just didn't think. We knew we had to get her, so we grabbed a chair, got her in the chair, got her on the stretcher, gave her some oxygen, and she had a history of some breathing problems. So we're thinking, okay, weather's come in, kind of going on. Let's deal with this. We're not 300 feet from the ambulance, or maybe 150 feet from the ambulance. And my partner looks at me and says, "Stacy, she's not breathing." So we went from what in our mind, literally within minutes of our initial call, was going to be go help some lady move to a chair to full blown cardiac arrest. And we're doing CPR and we usually call back up. And um, we didn't even have time to get back up there. But in an 11-minute time span, things change from what we thought was the initial to the outcome. So my brain is just wired after 20 years of this just to do. His brain is wired to think of every single scenario, and he does it very, 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 very quickly, and then he moves on. And he thinks about how his action could affect somebody negatively. Well, I don't think that way. So I'm trying to learn to not change me, but evolve so we do it together and become much better at what we're doing by evolving together. So you have to be careful of what are their triggers? What are their little things? And you can't address that issue when you're both heated. It's never going to happen. But it doesn't happen in normal relationships. Think about your children. You got two kids sitting there fighting and fussing and arguing, and but I want this toy. No, I want this toy. Mom, he had the toy first. Now I have the toy, but it's my toy. And you hear this, and nothing in that moment is going to stop those kids from arguing, other than you separating them or spanking them, whatever your discipline thing is. And then when everybody's calmed down, you can bring everybody back and say, was that really the smartest move? So you cannot talk to either party is not going to talk effectively when we're going through a moment that is a trigger that has set off or a situation that is just escalating. We can't do that. So we have to find a way to come together at the end of the day or the beginning of the next morning. For us, what works is I call it the go to bed reset. So if we get into it, and he goes to sleep and I go to sleep or do my thing and we wake up, we kind of have this reset and we can start over. But as soon as he gets up, and I do this all the time, and I know I do it, and I've caught myself now saying, mm, mm, sorry, you need a few. He's got to get up and have his coffee and a cigarette and do his time. And I typically get up before him just because I do. My body wakes up that way, and he doesn't sleep good at night. So he tends to sleep a little later in the morning. We're both up by the crack of dawn, but a little later in the morning. And the very first thing I do is I'm like, "Duh, duh, 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 we have to do this and this and this and this and this and this today. And so called, and I've done this and I've done that." And it becomes very focused in his mind on I've done, I've done, I've done. So, and I'm the one who's saying it, and I'm wrong. And it doesn't mean that what I did was wrong. It means the verbiage I used was wrong in approaching him that way. The verbiage was wrong. So I can't do that first thing in the morning. So what happens is, yeah, Michelle's got a valid point. It's hard to wait for the right moment to talk, but we must redirect one another to evolve together. And that's very true. You got to find that right moment. And my right moment with me and Carl is not necessarily going to be the best moment with you and your spouse because we all react different. Sometimes people are better in the evening, some are better. Um, you got to be careful and find the time that they're most likely to listen. Or you can have a conversation without recreating that moment again. I also found that what works for us, and I have not been doing this lately, so just let me say that, is when we have a conversation about a situation, I tend to go in lately. I have some other things going on in my head, and right now it is kind of very much about me in my mind. I tend to go in and say, "You did do," and I list it. Well, duh. When people come to you and say, even in a work situation, come to you and say, "Hey, um, do you know that yesterday you didn't do this and you didn't do this and you didn't get this paper filed right and you didn't send the right email? And why haven't you done this?" And of course, your desk is piled up to here, right? And you got all this stuff going on. And so, what do? You instantly shut down, and all you hear is you've done things wrong. So when I approach him and I go, "Hey, um, let me tell you how I feel. You did this to me, and you did this to me, and you did this to me, and you did this to me." What does it become? It becomes defensive for him and he shuts down. Well, duh, we all do that. If anybody comes to us in a negative aspect, we are going to shut down. That's what we do. It's our coping mechanism. So when we talk to each other, I have found it's much better to come in and say, "Hey, Ben, let's talk about yesterday. Um, you know, kind of screwed up. And how did, what did you feel? What could I have done different?" And when you're still getting the same outcome, but let them talk first, and then they've gotten their thing out, and you kind of react without blowing up. And then you can go back and say, "Well, but when you said this, it kind of hurt my feelings too." And so it communicates better because you're not putting blame. We have to remember when you deal with PTSD issues that part of their struggle is blame. Okay. So whether um, an event happened and somebody died in their presence, they are so trained to be buddies and defend your buddy at all costs. If somebody gets shot that they had no control over, they blame themselves. We posted it on our website, and I think it's actually on the Facebook page too. Jeremy, who is part of this organization, who is one of the veterans who's really opening up and sharing his stories, did a thing that we posted last night called My Cross to Bear. And some of his instances were actually a training exercise where he gave the order to jump, and it's in there, so this is public. You know, he's agreed to let me share. But he let a guy jump, and the guy shoot. Well, Jeremy didn't know that. So Jeremy holds a lot of blame in his heart for what happened. So we have to be very careful when we start pushing blame on them because it shuts them down and takes them to a place that they already feel guilty for being in. So be careful. You don't necessarily have to blame them. You're the one who caused the argument. No, we both argued. It was a mutual thing because at any point in time, one of us could have not argued. So when we do something wrong, we need to own it. And I am not good at owning it. Okay, let me just tell you, I am not the best at owning it. I just thank God that Carl loves me every minute of the day. So when I don't own up, he can say, I love you anyway. And he does. So be very careful how we approach these triggers. Now we can there we know about the dates. We know they are there, but we never know. I was telling Michelle this morning, it's kind of like the Dr. Seuss and the Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You know, how do you stop Christmas from coming? There's no packages, there's no bows, there's no presents, and the Grinch wanted to stop Christmas from coming. So we can walk on eggshells all day, every day, and think, I need to stop this trigger from coming. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes an outside sound, an outside experience, something they see on TV, a moment crosses through their mind like it does any of the rest of us, and that trigger is there. You're not going to stop Christmas from coming. I don't care what you try to do, how many eggshells you try to walk on, how much you change your life. That's why we get angry, y'all. That's why we get bitter because we try and it isn't resolving and their symptoms aren't going away and they're still having their triggers and they're still having their explosive moments. We can't stop that. We have to learn to evolve with them. We have to learn to evolve together with them. We also cannot always say PTSD is a crutch. We do it all the time. I can, I mean, Carl is literally phrasing things for me at times and he says, this is not the PTSD. And it's not. It's a normal family argument that people have. People argue. We don't always agree. If he agreed with everything I did, we'd have a really dull life. It's that counterbalance it's good. So you have to we as spouses and life partners and significant whatever word you want to use, we have to learn not to become an enabler with the situation. When Michelle and I talked this morning, and I really wish I could forget to make this live. Michelle, we're going to practice till we can. When we talked this morning, she said right out that some of her behaviors. Oh, see now we have. I forget it. Scroll down. It's some of her behaviors early on, walking on the eggshells. That those behaviors allowed him to think it was okay to treat. So when you're like, oh, well, you know, he has PTSD and this is just a PTSD moment. And no, it's not always a PTSD moment. It's a regular argument, people. You can't allow them to do that. We all have to be accountable for our actions. If every time there's a moment, I give in and say, oh, you're right. I'm miserable. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I have resentment. If every moment he thinks of me as some nagging bitch, he gets resentful. But that happens in normal relationships. That's not the PTSD. So we can't use it and become an enabler. My first marriage, my husband was a horrific drug addict, horrific. He was abusive. So what did I do? When I had a black eye, I didn't go see my mom and dad. What did that say to him? That said it was okay for him to do that because I wasn't going to tell anybody. Now, what I needed to do was walk out and say, look, I didn't. And I enabled him. Oh, I know you've had a bad day. I know you can't deal with it. So that little bit of cocaine, that's okay. And I can make excuses why he can't be here, why he can't do this. And I made excuses. I was an enabler. I allowed that to happen because I took his addiction and made it mine. You can't take it their PTSD and and and, and I we can't do that. And Michelle's right. We want to protect them. We want to take them and protect them. And when we overprotect them, we demasculate them. We can't do that. We can't enable. We have to learn what is PTSD, what is a normal relationship, and what have I done by being this little protected? Oh, I don't want him to do this today. What have I done to allow him to treat me the way he does or have the behavior he has? Carl treats me like his princess. And what do? I throw everything I can at him when he is angry. That's not good. How is he supposed to feel? That's not his PTSD. That's Stacy being a disrespectful little brat. So I can't do that. And part of that comes from my own past baggage. I can't do that. We have to learn to be accountable. And we have to learn what triggers them, what works for them. And sometimes you don't have to wait till after that fight. Sometimes you could be having a good day and just sit down and say, babe, look, I need to understand a little bit more about what's going on. And I understand that there are things you don't want to tell me about the specific events. I get that. When you're ready to share them, or if you're ready to share them, I'm here. But what we need to talk about is what sets, what can I do to not set you off? What can I do to make our life better? Or what can we do together to make our life better? I know one of the things that Carl gets on to me about, no, diagnosis wise, he's the one, as he puts it, is the one who's screwed up, and I'm the one who's learning from him every single day. Because I say I, and it's we. What can we do to make our life better? What can we do within the parameters that we have to make our life better? What do we need to do? And he has this great toolbox, and he talks about the toolbox he has all the time. And this is a discussion that we still have to have. He was given an enormously good toolbox on how to deal with his PTSD. Stacy has her own version. We are wired completely different. So the fact that he needs downtime and needs time where he's not thinking about anything, that works for him. That don't work for sister. I like to be doing. I'm one of these people, if my mind is moving, I'm not thinking about a negative thing. I just move on and stay busy. And does it stress me out at times? Sure, it does. We are all stressed. We're all stressed at different levels. Y'all, people that are homeschooling your kids, God love you, because I could not be the mother, the teacher, the principal. Wouldn't work for me. Wouldn't work for me at all. So, all of you that are doing that, my hat's off to you. You have way too much stress. We all do it. We all have our own versions of stress and how we deal with them. So as Carl and I learn to evolve together, we have to find what works. I'm not going to use every tool in his toolbox the way he does, but I can learn from the tools in his toolbox. And just like he's got to accept that this is the way I deal with my issues. And we have to come to a compromise somewhere that allows us to evolve together. Because the anger just gets worse. We can't do this. We just fuel off of each other. And then what do we have? We have this whole group of people sitting here saying, this enormous group of people sitting here saying, I'm done. I don't like him anymore. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be in this situation. I love him. I will do anything. He loves me and he will do anything for me. But we can't be good for each other if we're not good for ourselves. And that means we can't enable. We have to be open about our feelings. And we have to do it in a positive way where we redirect our negativity to something positive and get out there and start doing and approach them in a manner that they don't feel threatened, just like we don't feel threatened. We don't want to feel that way. I want somebody telling me what I've done wrong. I want somebody to tell me, I am so proud of what you've done. And you've done this, 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 and this. And he does it all the time. And the list of the things I do that are good, he tells me all the time. But then when he throws that one thing, but I don't like when you do, and all I hear is, I don't like what you do. And I'm like, so you don't like anything about me? That's not what he said. He said, you do this. You successfully are doing this. Your life is super busy and you do this well. But when you get so focused on this, I don't like it when you don't spend time worrying about us and making us the priority. He's not saying make us the priority 24/7. He's not saying that I need to sit on the couch and have us time 24/7. He's saying you're so busy doing all this and I love you for it, and you're doing a great job, but I need you to spend your day doing it. So learn to listen for the triggers. Learn to listen for what's get it in your own head how to deal with them and think about what are true triggers to PTSD in life and how do we evolve with the PTSD to get to that point. And we will get to that point. By tomorrow, I will promise you, Michelle and I will figure out how to do this together because we need to be doing it together. She's so full of information and it is such a great thing. And I don't want to be the only one here. So Michelle and I will talk about doing this together. And tomorrow, we'll be addressing, we need to go further with this. We need to go further with communication and how we can communicate better with our veterans. We all have different backgrounds, different baggages. They do too. So there's some true skills to communicating better. Um, Please do not forget to join us live tonight. It will be a Zoom meeting, so we can keep it private. We are going to talk about how the world's events are triggering our veterans and triggering us too, and what we're seeing and how we can, as a group of support people, and we're going to have some veterans there tell us what they see so we can kind of all come together and really talk about that. That is tonight at 7 o'clock our time and on the East Coast, and we will have that available just so we can all come together as a community of loving people who really do love what's going on. Please don't forget that tomorrow is 9/11. Um, and so our post will be kind of in between some of the horrific events that happened. Um, Again, if you have not signed up for the podcast of Behind the Service, please do so. Um, two amazing women. Their husbands came together and talked about how 9/11 affected their lives. So those are some of the things we have coming up. We do have a new YouTube channel. We are working on getting the rest of these videos and stuff posted, so you can go to it, find us on YouTube at Loving My Veteran. Have a blessed day. We will see you again shortly. If you have questions, comments about what you saw, what you need, please feel free to message us, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. We also have the sidebar that we have veterans who are willing to answer from a veteran's perspective too, so you don't get everything so one-sided from ours. And we are not professionals. We don't know it all. We're just here to support each other and love each other and get through this. And we will talk to y'all tomorrow. Well, we'll see you tonight first, and then we'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a blessed day, everybody.